So GPT-4 and the services around it like ChatGPT really have been the gold standard when it comes to large language models. And there have been a couple of contenders, most notably from Google, that have been trying to get to the same level as GPT-4. Now, I previously tested Gemini, that's Google's new large language model, against GPT-4, and really Gemini didn't quite make it. GPT-4 was better. However, now Google has rebranded Bard to Gemini, and there is an advanced version that you can pay for that uses Gemini Ultra. So a newer, bigger, better large language model. So in this video, I'm going to compare GPT-4 with Gemini Advanced to see whether now there truly is a competitor to ChatGPT. So if you want to find out more, please let me explain. Okay then, so I've got ChatGPT 4 with my ChatGPT Plus subscription on the left here. I've got Gemini Advanced with Google subscription here on the right. I'm going to ask them both the same questions. If you saw my previous video on this, you will know the format. I'm going to ask them questions to do with logic and colors and movies and sports and programming, and let's see what happens. So here's the first question. I will paste it in to both of the prompts here. The darts tournament, there were 3 players, Gary, Bob and June. June finished above Gary, Bob finished below Gary. Who finished last? So let's go ahead and ask both of them that. Okay, so let's read ChatGPT's answer. Based on this information, June finished above Gary, Bob finished below Gary. This means that Gary did not finish last. Correct, since Bob finished below him, and since June finished above Gary, she also did not finish last. Therefore, the one who finished last was Bob, which is correct. And so Gemini says June finished above Gary. This means June was either first or second. Bob finished below Gary. This means that Gary was either first or second. Since June and Gary cannot both occupy the same place, this leaves us with June first place, Gary second place, Bob third place and last. So the answer is Bob. So they are both correct in that instance. Well done, both of them. Okay, the next one. On a shelf there is a blue book, a red mug, a green keychain, a yellow notepad, a white candle and a gold photo frame. What colour is the mug? Let's find out what they say. The mug is red, we got on the left there from ChatGPT. The mug is right, we get there from Gemini Advanced. So far it's equal on both sides. And the next question, from the following list of 5 movies, which one is the most similar to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope? Movies: The Princess Bride, Father of the Bride, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, and The Matrix. Let's see what happens. Out of the movies left above, this is ChatGPT on the left. The Matrix is the most similar to Star Wars. Both movies belong, let me just scroll back up again, to the sci-fi genre and share elements such as distinct hero's journey and so on and so on. The other movies, Father of the Bride, etc., are rooted in comedy. There you go. So what does this one say? You can find is likely is The Princess Bride, and here's one. And this is interesting. So they've difference of agreement here. Let's see if it can convince me. A hero's journey, that's true. There is a hero's journey. Mentor, there is a mentor. Yes, Dread Pirate Roberts. Love interest, Princess Leia and Princess Buttercup. Well, interesting. Yeah, I don't think it was a love interest really in Star Wars in that first Star Wars movie. Evil figures, Darth Vader and yes, The Princess Bride embraces herself. Let me know if you. Well, there you go. So it hasn't picked it because it's science fiction. It didn't pick The Matrix because it's science fiction. It picks The Princess Bride. Well, I don't know what to say there. Is that a tie, or is just Gemini Advanced wrong? I don't know. I'd love to hear what you think about that in the comments. That's a tough one. I'm going to say a tie because it convinced me that it has good reasoning to say that that it picked that movie. Okay, interesting. So let's say it's a tie still up until now across all categories. Let's ask another question. So this is a soccer, football, as we would say over in the UK. Is the following sentence plausible? Gary Lineker, that's a famous football player. Gary Lineker was deemed offside from his position in the changing room. Okay, let's see if either of them think that sentence is plausible. Let's go away and ask them. The sentence Gary Lineker was deemed, I'm reading now from ChatGPT, is not plausible in the context of the rules of football, soccer. The offside rule in football applies to players on the pitch during active play. However, the statement might be used metaphorically or humorously. For instance, it could be used to exaggerate a player's tendency to be caught offside so frequently they're jokingly said to be offside even when they're not on the field. but in a literal rule-based sense, a player cannot be offside. Okay, I'll give it that. I'll give it the humorous one. No, the sentence is not plausible. Here's why. Offside rule in football only applies to players actively on the field. Physical impossibility. A player located in the changing room cannot impact the play. Therefore, he or she not. The sentence might be intended as a humorous exaggeration, which they as far as outside the play Gary Lineker was that it doesn't actually follow the rules of the game. So both of them seeing the humorous side of it, but both of them pointing out. Now this is different because when I did this video a little while back with normal Gemini, not the advanced version, then Gemini got it wrong. It got it completely wrong. So that's really interesting. So again, still a tie up until this point. Hard to see a difference between them, although of course the output is different, but you'd expect that. Okay, now a programming question. So write a Python script to perform the following. Ask the user for their name. Find the SHA-256 value of their name. That's a hash, of course. Find the MD5 hash value of the SHA-256 value found in step 2. Search the resulting MD5 hash for the letter A, either uppercase or lowercase, and print true or false if it is found or not. So can they generate this? Now this isn't an algorithm you'd find, like find a prime number or a Fibonacci sequence. This is something I've just invented out of the top of my head. So let's see what they come up with. So Gemini, absolutely, here is a Python script. So what does it do? It asks you for the name. It then looks for the 256 hash. It then looks for the MD5 hash. Oh, okay. Now noticing here, it put that in a variable. They didn't use that here. It just did it again. That's interesting. So that's a bit of optimization could go on there. Has letter A or letter A and then prints out. So I reckon that would actually work. That's pretty good from my first reading of it. What does this one say? So let's go over here and see what ChatGPT says. It works out. Oh, what's going on here? Is there a thing at the bottom here? Please give me your name. Okay, and it says check hash. It's written a function, passes in the name, and then it says if contains A, which is not going to include, it says own everything to lowercase. Okay, so that would work. And then it returns that, and then it's going to print out here, contains A. Okay, well, actually, let's go ahead and run both of those and see what we get. Okay, so I've copied both of those verbatim. I didn't do any changes to them. Let's run the ChatGPT one first of all. Enter name Gary. Okay, and then it's given me that hash. Does it contain an A? Yes, it does. True. Okay, so this was gem.py. Enter name Gary, the same. Just says true. Okay, let's hack it a bit so it prints out the hash for us. Okay, so it's given us the same hash and it's given us the same answer. So they're both doing exactly the same thing and they're both getting it right. Well, fantastic. Different way of doing it. The one here in ChatGPT wrote a function to do it. This one just did it all in line. But looks like they're both tied again. So far, in terms of the output, they're both passing all my tests. I've only got one test left, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to come to a conclusion here. Here's the final test. So what I've got here is there is an overflow bug in the following code. This is some C code. And the problem is in this line here, you see when you add num1 and num2 together, you can actually cause that to overflow. And that will happen because it's inside the brackets before it gets cast to a float and before it gets divided by 2. So then you're going to get an overflow in there and that can happen. Let's see whether either of them can spot that error. Okay, so ChatGPT's come out first. The overflow bug is related to num1 and num2. That's correct. Let me see what else is. To fix this, we can cast num1 to it before. I know that's true because floats hold bigger numbers. So the answer there is to cast them both to floats because floats hold longer numbers than just normal ints do. And that's correct. That would fix the problem. The problem lies in the potential integer overflow of num1 and num2. That's correct. Let's see the code it suggests to fix it. So, no code to fix. It's converted num1 and num2 to long, but we know that rand just returns, probably says that up here. Let's see if it says that. The rand function returns an integer. So therefore it's making these both long, and then you're not going to get the overflow anymore because rand can only ever return an int, a max int, rather than a long. So that would also fix it. It's talking now about longs. Okay, so there you go. So different ways of fixing it, but that would fix it in both cases. So there we go. An absolute tie. I need to think of a tiebreaker now. Wow, let me just quickly go away and think about a tiebreaker question. Okay, if this one doesn't break it, then I'm just have to declare this a tie. So what I'm saying is here, okay, write code in Lua. So that's a programming language. Now, if I asked it to do it in Python or in C, I'm pretty sure it's going to know the answers because they're heavily trained on these. So I've picked a bit more of an outsider language. Okay, it's not C, C++, C#, Python, something like that. Write code in Lua to find the first 100 prime numbers. Okay, I don't know how good they are at Lua. Let's find out. Oh, by the way, if you would like a video on Lua, do tell me because I've never done one. It's a really interesting language, Lua. Anyway, let's ask them and see whether either of them know anything about Lua. To find the first one, you write a program that iterates through the numbers of choice. It's giving me some Lua code. Function is prime. Okay, if this, I'm reading from the left here, if number is less than 1 turns, and then you do the square root. And then you find, and then in the find primes, okay, it's basically got a while loop, okay, and it puts them all in a table, okay, and then it goes out and prints the table. Okay, that looks like that could pretty much work. Okay, and then here again, square root, okay, find first 100 primes, okay, goes through a loop and then calls print 100 primes. Okay, well, that could work for both of them. So should we try them out and see whether they actually do the job? Okay, so I've got the two Lua files, just copied them into temporary files here. Let's see whether the ChatGPT version works. Okay, so it's listing 100 file numbers here. Did it pretty quickly, starting at 2. There's a bit of debate there, but that doesn't matter. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and it's correct, and it's doing that to the first 100 of them, right up to 541. So that seems to work. Let's look at the other one. Okay, 541 didn't list the numbers. That's just a different way of doing it, starting at 2. There you go. So they've both worked. So, well, there you go. You saw it for yourself. So there you see an absolute tie. Neither of them really got anything wrong at all. Logic, English sentences, you know, coding, debugging, they handled it all very well. It will now come down to really what are your particular needs. Which one is cheaper, which one is available in your area, whether using, for example, the ChatGPT via Bing, via Microsoft Copilot is a better way, or whether you think you should get through all these kind of economic and kind of other factors now come into play that are not the actual technology. The actual technology seems to be now that Google has caught up to OpenAI. Of course, OpenAI hasn't been sleeping this time. It's currently working as well. I'm sure Google are as well. So now we really are into a true competition. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.